answer is almost always love, right? Like it's love for that younger part of ourselves, love for the part of us that like wants to heal, love for the part of us that's like ready to grow and move past things. So, you know, you've talked about, I think this is like a very interesting interesting is not the right word, but and I was going to say interesting. I think it's a very heartfelt example, and it makes me wonder about like in your experience, how have you seen like trauma show up for people, especially like as it relates to being like LGBTQ plus identified?
How long do we have?
I know. We've got time.
You are, I know. That is a 10-pound question packed in a 5-pound bag. So trauma. So the way that I define trauma is that trauma is something that overwhelms your capacity to cope. And different people have different capacities to cope based on your history, based on, you know, the things that have happened in your life, based on your coping skills. All of those things are different. I think of it like a cup, right? Some people come in with a larger cup like you have right here.
Yep.
Some of them have a smaller one. And so that's
And
why
some people have
some people have, you know, pretend there was like a tiny, tiny cup. This is not indicative of anyone's coping, just using for example. But, you know, that's why two people can go through the same thing and one of them feels severely traumatized and another person doesn't, because it might have completely flooded someone's cup. And the other one was like, well, it almost hit the top, but I think I'm okay. And so one of the things that I've seen the way trauma work out, especially within our LGBTQI plus communities, is that very often we're already running around with some liquid in our cup. We're already running around with stuff, you know, that we maybe haven't had the opportunity to kind of spill and like, you know, pour it out. And so then what happens is if we're walking around with a cup that's already a quarter full, something happens and it's another quarter. Now our cup is half full. So then when something bigger happens, what would have probably not overflowed it, now it's a mess everywhere.
Right.
And so what do? We pretend that it's not there. We pretend that we're fine because acknowledging that the cup has spilled over, acknowledging that there are some things that might need to get cleaned up so that we have a cup that's okay, or even doing the work to grow our cup is scary. You know, and if you haven't had examples like that before, if you haven't had people to support you and say, you know what, it's spilled, but let's help you clean it up. Let's help you pour some of that out. If you haven't had that, then every time it spills, it feels like a catastrophe because it is.
Right.
And so, especially within LGBTQI plus communities, I talk a lot about minority stress.